Namaste, my friend. Let us start our journey with a smaller practice. Eyes are closed. Eyes are closed. Adjust your body so that you find you are comfortable. Being comfortable is very important. Why you become comfortable is to way to become aware. It is a way to start moving the mind within. You are aware of the entire body means you have a feeling, sensation, comfort, and steadiness. That is one way to be comfortable, and just looking at the entire body mentally, that means you are aware of the entire body and experiencing sensation, comfort, and steadiness. It's a way to move the mind within. To look within simply means that we are going away from the world of thoughts and feeling and the people and the objects. Maybe you can look inside the body. Looking inside the body means that you are looking into the space or a darkness, aware of the infinite space, no boundary. Why we are doing this? So that the mind should leave the objective reality. And one day we find comfortable all the time in all the location. Means what? We have an ability to withdraw the mind from the world whenever we want, or whenever we have a sense of anxiety. So it means the mind can enter into the state of detachment just by your choice. Think of that space, imagine of that state of mind that you have taken over the mind. And second step as usual, but we are going deeper and understanding it clearly. Being carefree, watching as you watch the traffic while standing across the road. I have been repeating it again, but now let us go deeper. So when you watch the traffic standing across a road, you know that you are different and separate from the traffic. Obviously, we are separate and different from the traffic. That's the way we are watching. So here you are separate from all the thoughts that are entering into your mind. Unwanted, unwelcome thoughts are the traffic. And you are standing behind all the thoughts. That is why I give that example. You are better equipped means you are not carried away. You are not carried away by any thought. That is the meaning of this metaphor, that you are standing across the road and watching the traffic. So you are an observer, you are simply witnessing, the thoughts are coming and going. Just check it. There is an awareness that you are not the thoughts. The way you are not the traffic, you are not the thoughts. And once that state, you feel it, there comes a sense of freedom. A great freedom takes over you. So being comfortable and being carefree helps us to raise our awareness. Normally we find that, oh, these two steps are very simple, oh, I can go. No. Every time you do it, you are mindful of being comfortable and being carefree. And then now looking deep inside the forehead in the space and just start breathing quick, short, and the gentle breath. You need not to breathe very fast or not, just keep on breathing short and gentle breath. But keep your awareness inside the forehead. You are looking inside the forehead in the space and continue. Continue. You will discover the changes in the sensation. Continue. Sometime when we do the practice of breathing for a longer period, we also check whether we have that endurance or not, and the experiences we receive will help us to go deeper. And stop this, do nothing, remain as you are. First thing, you recognize the changes in your experience and accept it. Second, also understand if there was any resistance during the breathing and you endured it, that is a good thing. Any resistance and you kept on doing it, that helps also to change the mind. And now we will again go into the passive step, looking at the head and the neck. The entire body, right arm, left arm, right leg, left leg. Look at the entire body, or I can say move the mind on the entire body from the top of the head to the toes, and experience sensation, relaxation and stillness. Sensation, relaxation and stillness. This is another way. We are just, moving the mind inside. Whether I say moving the mind inside or going deeper within. I'll explain you in a clearer way. So in that state of sensation, relaxation and stillness, in that state of sensation, relaxation and stillness, let us make the mind more mindful by the mantra. But here we are contemplating and reflecting. So you are just bypassing the other thoughts that comes to your mind. And that we do it by word. We chant the mantra inside, we go for the meaning, and we contemplate, we find the knowledge hidden in that mantra. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve bhavantu sukhina. So meaning is, let everyone be happy. So now, every time you do this practice, and especially the mantra, when you say let everyone be happy, become aware of the near and the dear ones outside your body, and you have an aspiration, let everyone be happy. From the near and the dear ones, you go little far to your friends. Let everyone be happy. To the people, to the employees, to the far off the friends. At least your mind should have a feeling, let everyone be happy, irrespective of the fact whether they are meeting you or they don't meet you. They are strangers, they are far off relations. Why we do that? We want to get rid of the strong likes and dislikes in our mind. But why? When we get rid of these strong likes and dislikes from our mind, that mind can go very deeper and can find the permanent peace within. Sarve santu niramaya, sarve santu niramaya, sarve santu niramaya. Let everyone be in the state of well-being. So you're with mind and emotions. Every time you're saying a couple of times, let everyone be in the state of the well-being, then looking at the near and the dear ones, then looking at the far, relations, and as continue to move the mind outside, you cover then everyone, while saying in your mind, let everyone be in the state of the well-being. Why we are saying, I have told you, we want to get rid of the strong likes and dislikes. It can return at any time in our mind, and it causes a lot of challenges. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, sarve bhadrani pashyantu. So let the blessing and the grace should fall upon each and every one. Because we are expanding our mind. Let grace and the blessing fall upon everyone. So when you are saying grace and the blessing to the near and dear ones, then as your mind goes out and then it goes far of relations and the friends, and check that the mind is not at all has any like or dislike. Irrespective of the person or the relations, your mind moves with that state of feeling. Let there be a grace and a blessing for everyone. Ma kaschid dukha bhag bhave, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhave, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhave. Let there be no misery in the world. Means there is no suffering in the world should be there. Why we say that? We want to change the mind, our own mind. That is another way to purify the mind. Now looking at the breath. First check, you are comfortable, you are carefree, there is no movement in the body, body is in the motionless state, you are aware, and the mind is living within. You are looking at the breath. It means you are aware of the breath. The breath goes in, Om Shanti. Breath comes out, Om Shanti. We are also checking if the mind has reached to that higher state of awareness. So what happens? The breath is going in. You feel that, and then the mind simply drops Om Shanti. Om Shanti means I'm peace. Om is the real self and Shanti means the peace. Just see, when the breath goes in, Om Shanti, when the breath comes out, Om Shanti. Continue. In the state of sensation, relaxation, and stillness, mind is living within, aware of the breath going in and out, and you are dropping Om Shanti without any change in the rate and the rhythm of the breath. And you find a kind of extreme lightness, a sense of freedom. And your mind says, no, you want to continue for a longer period. If that happens, that's a very good state. If that doesn't happen, we will pick up another extension of this step. Pay attention so that at least, any time for a few seconds or few minutes, you're just looking at the breath and you're dropping Om Shanti, and you feel a sense of freedom and calmness. and your mind says, no, I want to continue. So you continue even for 5 to 10 minutes. So within 5 to 10 minutes, you have a sense of freedom, calmness, because you are a seeker. But someday it may not happen. When that doesn't happen in those days, or every day, at least, you now you have to drop Om Shanti 2 times with every breath going in. But this time your breath rate changes. You inhale little deeper, Om Shanti, again continue inhaling Om Shanti. So 1 inhalation, 2 Om Shanti, 1 exhalation, 2 Om Shanti. The body remains in the state of steadiness. Breath is little deeper. So every time, as if you have started breathing now, Om Shanti, continue breathing, and you drop Om Shanti on the breath now, breathing out Om Shanti. Mentally you are saying it, not loudly. And Om Shanti, while every inhalation to Om Shanti, every exhalation to Om Shanti. So someday when you see that there are a lot of thoughts and nothing is happening, it is better to make the breath little deeper and do it. And now return again to 1 Om Shanti during inhalation and 1 Om Shanti during exhalation. And still you have made the breath little deeper. Breath is deep. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Our objective is to keep the mind within, and once the mind is withdrawn inside and you are able to maintain your awareness, only the best thing will happen. And now your breath is also normal, and return to the Om Shanti in a very normal way, and see that if the mind is absorbed deeper within, there may be thoughts in the mind, but you feel that they are too far from you. They leave you totally calm and relaxed and full of joy. And just open your eyes gently, maintain that awareness. You see this joy, this calmness. Has come from within. There is no object that is responsible for this kind of a joy and the calmness. You are listening and you are also experiencing. The mind experiences two types of happiness. One is the pleasure happiness, and other is the permanent happiness. Pleasure is a short-term happiness. Anytime you have a pleasure, it comes due because of the contact of the senses with object, any sense organ, plus the mind. That is known as the pleasure happiness. And the permanent happiness is our true nature. During the practice, you are not craving, running after any object to secure peace and happiness. That is the understanding. So any type of pleasure refers to the things and the objects that we like. We like favorite food. We like someone. Because you like someone, you like your food, you like your house, you like your pet, then we find the pleasure. But if we don't like, we don't see the pleasure. That is the second thing, but in the first thing is that the pleasure depends on contact between our senses and the object or object of experience. Anything. You are sitting on a couch looking at the pet you like. That is why you have those pets. So the eyes goes in contact with those pets and then you feel the joy. But that joy is always temporary. Any pleasure, that is what we have seen. This week you have to work on how this kind of a pleasure happiness enters in our mind. And we forget. We forget the real happiness. So this pleasure happiness, I made it very clear. The pleasure happiness means it is my sense organs comes in contact with the objects, and there has to be one condition that we like. So you like your pet, eyes goes in contact with that particular pet, and that fills you with. So that happens in 3 stages. We are becoming more and more aware. First level of the pleasure, just we see an object or a pet that you like. Your pleasure intensifies when your mind says you already possess that pet. And that pleasure is intense. The highest pleasure that we get by experiencing. You are experiencing that pet means that you are petting on the pet. Any object. This week you just become aware how the mind plays with us so that we can play with the mind. First thing, anything. You wake up in the morning and your mind has a particular thought about an object and see that whether you like it or not. So liking gives you the first level of the pleasure, and the mind says possess it. Possessing gives you little more pleasure. You have a cup of coffee in your hand. That gives you more pleasure. When you are preparing the cup of coffee in the kitchen, little pleasure. You are holding it in your hand, more pleasure. You're taking a sip, it gives you the pleasure. So now you have finished the cup of coffee. Where the pleasure is gone? The very taste with the saliva, that is also gone. We forget that coffee. Any pleasure, any joy coming from the object outside. It has a first phase of liking, then we have possessing, then we have an experiencing. After that it dissolves, it disappears. So the mind demands a repeat pleasure. That's why we say, oh, let me have a cup of coffee again, let me go again. But that pleasure, happiness comes only because of the contact with the object. So the pleasure, happiness start with the liking. It goes on increasing in the second stage by possessing, and then by experiencing, and then it decreases, it dissolves, and sometime, majority of the time, results into the pain, as you told me about your pet. Liking, possessing, experiencing, the amount of the pleasure increases. But once the contact is lost, contact has to be lost. Why? You cannot continue drinking the coffee all the day. Contact has to be lost. And when the context is lost, then the pleasure reduces completely. Please pay attention to the different objects this week and see how your mind is working. The more you are aware of it, the higher the level of awareness you'll have. So our masters wants to be very clear to us that they say that the mind is not the source of happiness. Mind becomes the source of happiness because you like something. But you say, for example, you like one thing, you like coffee today and you dislike coffee tomorrow. So the same coffee gives you the pain. And the same coffee has given you the pleasure. So that is why it is very clear that the mind is not the source of happiness. Mind is this definitely, even it is not the source of pleasure, momentary pleasure. You like someone, think of that, the guy you like or the person you like. Because you like someone, it gives you the pleasure. But the mind can change the mood. On the second day, you don't like the same person. So that may become the source of your pain. You don't want to meet anyone. So our master is saying that the mind is not the source of the happiness. If mind is the source of the happiness, then it would remain happy all the time. Then you don't need anyone. You don't need even a coffee. You don't need a pet. You don't need a relations. Because mind changes completely, the mood changes. Pleasure, happiness comes and goes. And it is based on our liking, it is based on our mood. So pleasure, happiness depends on the conditions, many conditions, that I should like it, my mood should be there, to otherwise that pleasure, happiness leaves us. But why this happens? This is what the ignorance is. Ignorance means misconception, wrong notion. I had a wrong notion that this pet gives me the happiness. Keep more pets, but never get attached. How you get attached? Because you like it. So that liking creates a creamy color on your mind, creamy layer on your mind. So your mind keeps on thinking about it, that you possess this pet and this gives you the happiness. You take care of the pet, but at the same time become aware it is the source of the happiness is within you. Likes and dislikes determine what gives us pleasure and pain. That is ignorance. Likes and dislikes determine what gives us pleasure and pain, but something that gives happiness can cause the pain. Possession of a particular thing gives me the pleasure, and loss of that particular thing gives me the pain. Do you understand what I am saying? That is because of the likes and dislikes, and that is causing the problem. Because I want to derive pleasure from the object or a person. So this week, just find out those objects which makes you happy. Label it pleasure, happiness, short-term happiness. This is due to the ignorance. Not understanding the real source of the joy or the suffering. No, but I experience the pleasure. They are mental projections. They are mental projections. Your mind projects because you possess something. You like something, so mind projects the happiness there, and that projection we experience as a happiness. So now see that, if this mouse gives me the pleasure, so it is a projected happiness here. I possess it. But now I possess this mouse, it is working. But if it stops working, then what? It gives me the pain. Same thing with any object in this world. Presence of an object, because I like that object, gives me the pleasure, happiness. Absence of that object, or that object leaves me, has to give me the pain. What is this process? This process that because of the projection, I am bound by this mouse, I am bound by the pet, I am bound by the object. Like a car, I am bound by the house. There is a binding. I cover that in a binding desire. That causes the binding. I don't want to leave. You told me last time you don't want to leave the pet, but I have to follow the universal law. That is why the masters are saying that we have, in order to discover the real source of the happiness which is within us, we have to move the mind within. Our mind must be 100% clear that the happiness is not outside. It doesn't mean that I should hate everyone, I should leave everyone. No. First, no object is the source of happiness outside. This is an understanding happening in the mind. Second is the mind is not the source of happiness. We must go within. How to go within? By the self-inquiry and the practice. Self-inquiry and the practice of meditation. So by this self-inquiry and the practice of meditation, we discover the essential nature of the real self, the source of unconditional happiness. Until we find that source, we realize it, we have to continue the journey. And that is why in our tradition we say the master's guidance is crucial. To remove the ignorance. This ignorance has millions of shades and the colors. It may return in a variety of ways we miss. What is that happiness within? What is the sweetness of a sugar? Can you see it? No. Can you taste and feel it? Yes. Same thing. The real self is of the nature of happiness, like the sugar is of the nature of sweetness. Wherever you put into the water, you put it into the tea and the coffee, put it into the desert, it never leaves its essential nature of sweetness. So when we discover that real self, when we awaken to that essential nature, you as a happiness do not leave your nature. Whether you are with your kids, whether you are with anyone in the world, any relations in the world, you don't leave your nature, because now you have realized your nature. Are you getting it? The way the sugar does not leave its sweetness wherever you put it into the water, you put it into tea, coffee, desert. It doesn't leave its essential nature. So the same way, what is that realization? First you recognize that happiness is you, it is your nature. Awakening takes place in the meditation, and now you come out. Now you are living with everyone without leaving your essential nature. Are you getting it? I believe so, my friend. That is the day we recognize this happiness does not depend on objects, experiences, or other people. It comes from within us. So one person likes or dislikes, it doesn't matter. One person takes care of you or doesn't take care, because you know the happiness is already within you. Wherever you go, you spread the fragrance of the happiness, because you are of the nature of peace and happiness. It is not temporary like pleasure that comes in contact with someone. You feel continuous nature. You wake up in the morning and you are into that state of the happiness. wherever you go. We may ask the question that if the happiness is our nature, like the sweetness of a sugar, you have a cup full of sugar, you don't need any sweetener. So now the big question, that if happiness is my essential nature, means that sweetness is my essential nature, why my mind is seeking the pleasure outside? That is where we are coming. We say it is because of the ignorance and the delusion of the mind. The mind projects that happiness onto the things it likes. Your mind projects happiness on the pets. My mind projects happiness on giving you the lesson. But at the same time, if I recognize the happiness is within me, then the projection drops and I continue. We are in the state of the happiness all the time. But when we project, we get attached, we are bound. This is an illusion. Thinking the source of happiness is outside. The moment you start thinking and liking, and you start thinking the source of happiness is outside, it will cause the craving, desires, attachment, agitation. Are you understanding? So instantly you recognize that agitation in your mind. The moment you recognize the agitation and the anxiety and duality and a conflict, oh, check that. Warn yourself and become aware. The mind is searching. Mind has projected happiness outside and mind is searching happiness outside. You say to yourself, my friend, just to say to yourself this week, I want to see a tremendous result. So the moment you say, you are conscious. The moment you are conscious, you will recognize that it is because of the likes and dislikes. And when you recognize it is because of the likes and dislikes, you will be able to drop the craving. And the moment the craving drops, you return to the state of happiness. All experiences of joy in the sorrow, pain, peace, takes place in the mind. But we wrongly attribute them to objects, people, events, relations outside due to ignorance, due to delusion. Delusion causes endless suffering. Not only delusion causes endless suffering, but delusion causes endless chasing of pleasure and avoidance of the pain from the world outside. The path to the lasting happiness within, calming the mind, churning the mind and rediscovering our essential nature, the source of unconditional joy beyond all limitations. The very assumption of the mind that the pleasure comes from outside is the source of the sorrow. Or we have already, the journey of the sorrow has already started. Why? Because projection is already there. So projection on the pet, projection on the clothes, projection on the relations, projection on on a food item. After all, if we closely examine, does any object or a pet or any object or any person contain that happiness? The answer is no. Our likes and dislikes projects that pain and the pleasure. Same object today, I am happy, and the same object tomorrow, I am unhappy with the object. We have to be very clear. So very clear means that I live into that awareness. Any thought that comes to my mind, I examine, I observe, I do this self-inquiry. I see this mind through this thought is taking me, pushing me to that object because of the likes and dislikes, because of the projection of the happiness or the pain. You simply think in your mind. That is the moment of the self-inquiry, and that self-inquiry dissolves, reduces the binding nature of the mind. It also calms down your agitation. You're not in a hurry. But when we are living in ignorance, ignorance hides this truth and continues to project that happiness outside. Only this self-inquiry is required. I have to remind myself again and again, the mind seeks happiness outside due to ignorance and misunderstanding. It imagines the pleasure in object, people, and situations. I have to remind it again and again. The moment you remind it again and again, the mind becomes aware. What is that reminder? Sweetness of a sugar lies in the sugar, not outside, not in the contact with objects that you like. Any pleasure, happiness that we feel and experience coming from an object takes place in 3 stages. Remember this: perception, possession, and experience. PPE. Perception, I see an object. Internally, the mind says, I like that object. So because I like that object, I want to possess it. Say, you have a perception in your mind, oh, let me have a cup of tea. So you like tea, okay, or coffee. You go to the kitchen. So that is the first state. Very perception has an element of the pleasure. Why? You have already projected the pleasure. That's why you want to take tea. That's why you want to see the pet. That's why you want to move your hands on the pet. Move your hands on the pet. No issue. But internally, no. This is how the mind is tricking us. Perception, possession, and then we prepare tea or coffee, and then we hold it, possession, and then we experience it. The perception, possession, and experience. But that pleasure we get is temporary. The most important thing, that everything is changing. The mind is changing, the body is changing, sense organs are changing, the intellect is changing, the ego is changing. Anything that is changing in nature cannot give us the permanent happiness at all. That is another point. I live in ignorance, so that prompts my mind. It makes the mind desire, prompting, So due to the ignorance, my mind is prompted for a desire to seek happiness in any object outside. And then the mind gets agitated, it starts acquiring and possessing. You have to become aware this week. Anytime any thought comes, either you are happy with some object, some person, something, internally you inquire, and you will see at the same time you have a sense of the freedom. Same time you'll be free. Ignorance means misunderstanding, wrong notion, not knowing our true nature, leading us to seek happiness outside. And that causes the suffering. Real self is our essential nature. It is of the nature of the peace and happiness, love and wisdom. The true happiness is within. So because I have already projected happiness outside, so I will not see the true happiness lies inside. Culprit is the mind. But mind, ignorance in the mind, both. So we are aware the mind is also not the source of the happiness. It changes its mood, it feels, it likes something today, it dislikes something tomorrow. So no reliance on the mind, because the mind is constantly changing. So you are aware. So in that awareness, pain drops down. And then we resolve that we are not running after the short-term happiness. We want a permanent happiness. Every time, even you missed it. You have taken a cup of tea and you missed it. So even after you have taken a cup of tea, you enjoyed. The mind said, I enjoyed that coffee or tea. No issue at all. But you can even remember just after taking the tea. How you remember? By perception, possession, and experience. You just find out. I perceived a thought, a cup of tea and or coffee, then I possessed it, and then I experienced it. And now it is gone. Now that perception is gone. What is going to happen? Your mind will expand. It will enter into the joy. You will have more love to your pets. I can tell you. Something different happens. Because now misunderstanding is gone. Now it is your peace and the love that is manifesting in your relationship to the pets and friends and the things outside. That brings an end to the suffering. You have to ask yourself again and again, I feel I constantly seek a happiness in the things like relationship, food, entertainment, but it never lasts. Why is this? You ask yourself and you answer. I have already answered it. How do I stop getting attached to the momentary pleasure from the objects I like? I have already answered it. You have to ask yourself and you have to answer it. What are some practices that I can do to become aware of the real self? Or just start the self-inquiry? You have to answer. I have already answered. What will I gain by discovering the real self? I have to answer that. You answer yourself, and you will find you're in that state of